Hey everyone, it's Sunday in time for a new episode of Record Collecting with a Quill. This week we're ranking the Black Crowes studio albums. If you've been watching this channel over this past year, you know I mention Black Crowes quite often. It's one of my absolute favorite bands. It's one of those bands I buy everything with, and I have quite a huge collection of both vinyl and a lot of CDs as well, and tons of cool stuff. So I thought I'd do sort of ranking their studio albums. I haven't done it, and I've seen it's quite popular on YouTube and various channels, so I thought I'd try to do one myself. And what better way to start but with one of your favorite bands. But before we start, you know the drill. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little notice bell. Share with your friends. Well, Black Crowes, I got into them already in 1990 when they released their first album, Shake Your Moneymaker. And I saw them in 1991 the first time at the Hultsfred Festival. And as I said, I've been a big fan ever since. They brought something new and exciting around 91, and sort of at first I wasn't too into the whole grunge thing, and they represented something different. And as I said many times before, I grew up listening to Rolling Stones a lot through my father, and from that the step to Black Crowes, it's not that far. So as I said, and I've seen them tons of or not tons of times because they haven't been to Sweden that much, but I've seen them quite a few times over the years, and they're still an amazing act. And I'm one of those fans who like all the different lineups. They all bring something different, each member, to the band. So I just love listening to all there's tons of cool live recordings as well with them, so well worth checking out. Well, starting out, I think they released, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 albums, and on number 8, my least favorite. I like all of them, but this is place number 8, the Warpaint album. It's the first album they did after getting back from their hiatus. It was released in 2008. It was the first album they did with Luther Dickinson on guitar, a great guitarist, and also Adam McDougall on keyboards. And as I said, I really love the sound of this album. Great sound. As I said, Luther was a great addition as a guitarist, quite different from previous guitarists. But some great slide playing from him. And what I think this one lacks is songwriting. I think this it's a little bit unfocused. There's some good tracks. Goodbye Daughters of the Revolution is the standout track for me. There's Gold in Them Hills is also a cool one, but it's not one I listen to that often, and it usually tells you something if you don't have the urge to listen to it. But still, it was sort of getting the band back together in the studio again, and I think if for that reason it serves its purpose. But number 8 on my list. Number 7, one that is often debated and sort of a love. You either have a love or hate relation with this album. Is the 99 album By Your Side. This was Black Crowes listening to the label and sort of trying to make Shake Your Moneymaker Part 2 a little bit sort of more commercial side to the music. And I think it works for some tracks. There's some here that are my favorite. One of my absolute favorite tracks by Black Crowes are on this album. The last track called Virtue and Vice, and Kicking My Heart Around is cool as well. But there's some other stuff that I'm not really that fond of. It's a little bit too cheesy, I guess. And it becomes really evident if you listen to it. There's a lot of really good B-sides from this album on different singles. Some stuff that are a lot better than what made the album. There's a couple of tracks one called Peace Anyway, and one called Grows a Rose, and also a great Bob Dylan cover, When the Night Comes Falling from the Sky, that are so much better than some of the stuff on this one. But still a cool album, but number 7 on my list. Number 6. Well, Some of you will probably hate me if you're into Black Rose, but this is my number 6. Their first one, their most famous one, the one that sold the most, and the one that sort of made the band famous. And it's still a great album, but I think it's still a young band sort of trying to find their way. And if you read Steve Gorman's fantastic autobiography, he paints a really good picture of them being a young band and sort of being led by George Draculias, the producer. It's a lot of it has to do with his involvement in the album, being so great. But you have fantastic tracks here. You have Hard to Handle, you have Jealous Again, you have Twice as Hard, and She Talks to Angels. But it's one of those albums I rarely put on and listen to, and probably because I listened to it so much when it got out. But I don't know, it's the one they're touring with right now as well, sort of playing the whole album from beginning to end. And I'm not really that into that idea really, because I think they made so much great stuff, other stuff over the years compared to this one. But number 6, Shake Your Moneymaker. Number 5 is this one, Lions, from 2001. It's a double album. Took me quite a while to find it on vinyl. It's quite difficult to get, but this one I think has some fantastic standout tracks. It's a little bit uneven, but you have Midnight from the Inside Out. The first track is such a great opening song. You have another one of my favorite Black Rose songs of all time, Soul Singing, and you have Licking and Come On, some really cool stuff, but also a little bit more experimental stuff, which I'm quite fond of. And I urge you to find the vinyl version. It sounds so much better than the CD. It was one thing I found when I finally got it on vinyl. It's so much better on vinyl. What this lacks is a little bit of a band feeling as well. It's mainly Chris and Rich, Steve and Ed, and Rich is playing most of the bass together with Don was the producer, and Ole Free, the guitarist at the time, solo guitarist. He just played a couple of solos in this one, which I think is a shame because he's a fantastic guitar player, and it would have been nice to have a regular bass player on the album as well. But Rich is a cool bass player, but yeah, sort of lacks band feeling. Number 5, Lions. Number 4, this is another one that's a little bit debated in the Black Rose fan community. Before the Frost and Until the Freeze. This is actually one of my favorite albums. I think, as I said, with Warpaint, it has the sound, but it lacks the song. But this one really has some great songs, and you should listen to it on vinyl so you get the correct track listing. It was released on a single disc CD, and you could download the second part of it. But if you get the vinyl version, you get a totally different track listing, and it becomes a story, the whole album, which I'm really fond of. And I think there's some great tracks on this one, and great playing, and it was recorded live as well. And it's one of those things you regret in live. I remember when they announced the recording of this album, you had the opportunity so you could buy tickets and see them in Levon Helm's studio in I think in New Jersey somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I was really thinking about going, just flying over and sort of being a part of that. But for whatever reason I did, and it's one of those things I will always regret in life. It would have been so great being there, seeing this album being made, because there are so many great tracks on this one. And I think Luther shines really on this one with his guitar playing, and the whole band, and Sven Pippian as well, fantastic bass player. So much great stuff on this one, and cool to have on vinyl as well. So 4th place, Before the Frost, Until the Freeze. And number 3, now we're getting into the classic years. Well, number 3 is this one, Three Snakes and One Charm from 96. This is them being on a roll. They were on a fantastic roll from 92 to 97. sort of untouchable, and this one, some great songs on this one. And a band, it becomes evident compared to, say, Shake Your Moneymaker. Here's a band that's been touring a lot and really has everything dialed in. Yeah, I don't think it's one single track I don't like on this one. But Bring On is one of my favorite ones. How Much for Your Wings, Blackberry, yeah, so much good stuff. Under a Mountain as well. Great one. Three Snakes, place number 3. And now, drum roll, number 2. Well, it's hard. I'm sort of a little bit mixed, but I would go with Amorica from 1994 on place number 2. It's them having toured extensively for a couple of years, and this one was, they had a hard time making this. They did it a couple of times actually. A lot of drugs involved, and they sort of made the album and then scrapped it and did it again with a couple of different tracks. But this is arguably Black Crowes at its finest. So many great tracks on this one, and the classical lineup as well, and a real band effort, which I'm really, as I said, fantastic album and an interesting cover as well. And drum roll, is anyone going to be surprised? Place number 1 from 1992, the Southern Harmony and Musical Companion, recorded in just a couple of days after touring for almost, I think, 2 years, doing Shake Your Moneymaker, and you got the addition of the fantastic Mark Ford on guitar, and this is one of my all-time favorite albums. I don't think there's one track that is not fantastic on this one, and I was so into it once it got out, and I'm really glad I got to see them as well on this tour in Stockholm in 1992 at their peak, and I saw them a couple of years later again in Stockholm in 95, I believe. But as I said, you have Sting Me, you have Remedy, you have No Speak No Slave, you have My Morning Song, every track on this one is a classic in my book. So if you haven't heard it, get into it. I heard they're actually working on a sort of extended version of this one. It's going to be really interesting to see what they can find, as they didn't record that much. There's a couple of outtakes from it, but there's not that much since they recorded so quick. But nonetheless, a fantastic album. If you haven't heard it, you have to get it. Well, that was my ranking the Black Crowes albums. I'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think I'm totally out there? Do you think that Lions should be number 1? Or do you think Warpaint maybe is your number 1? Let me know in the comments section. And also we'll post a sort of a one track or so from each album on the Spotify playlist. You'll find a link down below. Make sure you follow us on social media. It's the Quill Sweden. I will be back next week. Maybe a little bit late. I'm going to Stockholm to see Kiss on Saturday, so I may be coming home a little bit late, but have no fear, I will be here for sure. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you all again next week. That's it. Bye for now. Cheers.